So here's the thing. The PlayStation Pulse Elite have unexpectedly become my favorite pair of headphones I own. Not because they sound the best, but the functionality is really underrated in my opinion. I didn't realize how much easier my life would be with a wireless headset compared to wired. The simultaneous Bluetooth is probably my favorite feature, being able to connect to my phone or my iPad and then my PC or my PS5 via the dongle. And then the dongle that it comes with, the PlayStation Link adapter, it provides low latency, lossless audio connection, so I don't have to worry about being behind in any games or losing any audio quality while listening to music and whatnot. However, the physical headset itself, I'm really not a fan of. They're not comfortable to wear all day if I want to use them for office work. I'm not going to use them connected to my phone while watering the garden or something. These really could be just my everyday, any situation, all around perfect headset if they just were built better. So I'm looking for a solution, and surprisingly, I'm having a really tough time here. I know the Audis Maxwell exist, but those come in at around $300, and that's a little bit out of my price range. I picked up these Edifier GX05s. However, the dongle always takes priority over Bluetooth, and you can't play media from both devices at the same exact time. For my second option, I did a little bit deeper research, and I think these will be a winner. The SteelSeries Arctis Nova 7. They come with a 2.4 GHz low latency lossless dongle, simultaneous Bluetooth that works via both devices at the same time, and most importantly, sub $200. So those should be here tomorrow. In the meantime, I'm going to go return these, and we'll get into some 7 days and 7 minutes. Typically how the series works is I buy a product, try it for 7 days, see what it's all about, and if it's really worth it or not. Straight out the box, barely any time using them, I can tell you that these are most likely a winner. They feel really comfortable. I like the way the ear pads feel. They call them Airweave memory foam. It's basically just like a breathable foam. It's also kind of firm, but they'll pull out quite a bit as well for people with larger heads, as well as the inside headband that's meant to just keep a little bit more tension on the head. That's adjustable as well. So comfort-wise, these things were pretty damn comfortable straight out of the box for me. I do have a smaller head, so I might tighten the strap a little bit, but really happy with all the adjustability options there. My favorite feature is probably the fact that the mic is a pull-out mic. So I mentioned one of my flaws with the Pulse Elite is that I can't really wear those around the house without feeling like a doofus. These look a little bit gamery with the different scroll wheels and the mic mute button on the side, but overall just a much better design than those Pulse Elites. You can remove the plates on the side of the ear cups and change out the headband as well if you want to customize it a little bit. So that's the basics. Now let's get to using these things. Alright, so that simultaneous Bluetooth that I'm so high on, this is the perfect example for it. I've got my iPad down here with the fights on, I've got Starfield up top, two totally different devices, one connected via Bluetooth, the iPad, and one connected via the dongle, so it's instant audio, so there's no audio lag between the game and my headset, both playing at the same time. Second way I probably use it the most is when I'm playing games like Overwatch competitively and there's a big wait in between competitive games, I'll throw on like a TV show or something on my iPad. I don't know when exactly this video is going to be coming out, but recently Xbox Live was down, and that's usually what I use to communicate with my friends when we're playing Rocket League. So we all had to hop on a video call, and while most of them had their phone on their lap while they were playing the game with their headset on connected to their Xbox or PC, I just had this connected to my phone and my PC, so then their voices and my game was coming through here just like it normally would if I was on an Xbox party chat. The only question I have left is how much latency am I truly getting? You know, they say low latency. What does that really mean compared to a wired headphone? So we're going to do some testing tomorrow. And here's how the test will work. I've got my microphone synced up to my camera and right next to my headphones. I'm going to play this audio visualizer test on YouTube, and that should allow us to see if there's any major difference of when the sound actually happens versus when it's supposed to happen. Now, I know there's a lot of variables in this setup. It's not the most scientific way of testing, but it's the best option I could come up with what I have, and I'm going to set a baseline by using wired headphones, so then we can compare the wired to the Nova 7 and see if there's any major differences between the two. So, here are the results. What we're looking at now is the baseline or our wired headphones. Now, like I said, it's not the most scientific method, so there are going to be some dependent variables that I can't really change because I don't have the most intricate testing equipment. The gray box over here is our microphone feed. On the left is the YouTube video, which is producing the sound. So in an ideal world where the YouTube video hits 0 milliseconds, our sound would show up on the gray box on the waveform there. But because we have those variables that are going to add a little bit of latency, such as that actual microphone picking up the sound, traveling to the PC recording it, and then displaying it on screen. It's not going to be perfect, but using the wired headphones first will allow us to set that baseline. So we see here the sound starts to pop up on the waveform at 100 milliseconds. Again, that's probably not latency you would actually hear in the headphones, that's just because of my recording equipment. Just for the sake of it, we'll take a look at a couple more to make sure that there's nothing more than 100 milliseconds with the wired headphones. And sure enough, each example, we start to see the waveform pop off at 100 milliseconds. That's our baseline, 100 milliseconds. When testing with the Arctis 7, anything more than that is actual latency you would notice in game. And you can see here the waveform appears on screen at, let's say, 140. We'll run the test multiple times just to be sure. And sure enough, it's definitely more than 100. So with using those wired headphones as a baseline, we were at about 100 milliseconds of latency. But with the same exact setup using the Arctis 7, we're at about 140, maybe even 130. Regardless, it is clear that there is some latency with the Arctis 7, somewhere between that 30 and 40 millisecond range. This is using the 2.4 gigahertz dongle, by the way, not via Bluetooth. But overall, I don't think that 30 or 40 milliseconds of latency is really going to make that big of a difference in game. But I do think it is good to know that there is some latency here. At the end of the day, it's not perfect. And day 4 was a pretty average day. I got to put them to testing in some real world scenarios. I started the day connected to my phone, listening to a podcast via Bluetooth, and I was able to move all around the house without any connection drop-offs, which was really nice. Then I moved into some editing. As I mentioned, you can turn on Bluetooth and the USB-C connection separately. So I turned on the USB-C connection, stayed connected to my phone, and then instantly was connected to my PC as well. Side note, the Apple Watch is really helpful here because I'm able to play and pause my phone from the watch. And then unlike some other gaming headsets out there, I was able to take a walk up to the mailbox to check the mail without feeling like a complete idiot. They never felt too bulky or uncomfortable. I was even able to play with the cat for a little bit without worrying about them falling off. Like I said, I do have a smaller head, so it does stay on a little bit better with a hat, but somebody with probably a normal sized melon would probably have no issue here. And the only issue I had was I hopped on Rocket League at night with the boys and my mic was just not cooperating with my PC. Come to find out, it was all in settings, totally user error. But I do want to talk a little bit more in depth about software, so we'll get into that tomorrow. Now there's a ton going on in SteelSeries GG. I could make an entire video itself about the app, but since we're talking about headphones, we'll focus solely on the Sonar tab, SteelSeries Sonar. What it allows you to do is change the different audio levels for your game, your chat, media, auxiliary. So say you're playing a game and you have some music in the background, you can independently change the different volume levels of the music versus the game. This is something that originally Elgato made really popular with their Wavelink software, but you had to buy an Elgato product in order to use Elgato Wavelink. With SteelSeries Sonar, it doesn't matter if you're using a SteelSeries headset or microphone or not, you can use the software for everything. Second thing this is really useful for is EQ. Not only can you make EQs for each individual channel that we talked about a second ago, but there is 142 presets that SteelSeries provides you with, and you can make your own. Within SteelSeries Sonar, you can go into Engine. You have a whole new EQ page that will actually save this EQ to the headset. So whether I'm using it with my Switch or my iPad, these are the EQ settings that will carry over with the headset, whereas the EQ we talked about earlier within the Sonar tab will strictly be when running SteelSeries Sonar. Now I mentioned I haven't been running an EQ at all because I wanted to hear what the headset actually sounded like straight out of the box, and it definitely does need some EQ, so let's talk about sound. Bad news, definitely needs some EQ. Good news, you can fix it pretty easily. Best way for me to describe what they sounded like straight out of the box is if you've ever put your phone in like a cup to amplify the speakers, there was a lot of resonance. It almost sounds as if I was talking like this into my hand. So I'll throw 2 EQs up on screen, one if you're using the SteelSeries Sonar software and one if you want to just save it to the headset. Both of these I got a general idea from Gadgetry Tech. He actually did some testing with some professional gear and got some professional measurements. So this is his preset based off those measurements. And then the only tweak I really made is pulling the bass up overall a little bit because I'm not necessarily a bass head, but I like a little bit more bass than normal. The sound is definitely passable. I've used these for music plenty of times with no issues. But if you do have some really sensitive ears and you're used to some audiophile headphones, then yeah, this headset isn't going to compete with those. So final thoughts, I think this is probably one of, if not the best wireless headsets you can get out there. The biggest downside probably being the sound quality. You know, straight out of the box, it really wasn't that great. Like I mentioned, it had a lot of resonance in it. Luckily, it's pretty fixable with the EQ that I provided thanks to Gadgetry Tech. However, I don't really want to judge a headset by the way it sounds after EQ. But other than that, I'd say the headset is pretty much flawless. The design is sleek enough that you can walk away from your computer, connect to your phone, and walk around in public, go to the grocery store or whatever without looking like a complete nerd. That simultaneous Bluetooth connection in general is a really nice feature to have, especially if you have multiple devices like Mac and PC. As far as latency goes, searching around online, it seems like 30 to 40 seconds is pretty much an acceptable amount that isn't really noticeable by the human ear, and most other wireless headsets sit right around that same number. So A+ for the 2.4 gigahertz connection for gaming, and overall it does a really great job at what it's made to do, be a Swiss Army knife of headphones. Now if you have no budget and you do want the best of the best, I still would recommend the Audi's Maxwell. Even though I haven't tried them, it seems like overall the reviews are much better for those, especially on the sound quality side of things. But even those I think look a little bit too gamery to be wearing around in public. And if you're like me, you're not willing to spend that $300 price tag, you're just looking for a budget headset around $150, sub 200, I don't think anything can beat these. If I left anything out, you have any remaining questions, feel free to let me know down in the comments. Any constructive criticisms are really helpful as well. I've been really feeding off of those lately. I appreciate that. Otherwise, that is the SteelSeries Arctis Nova 7. Thanks again for stopping by. I'll see you guys in the next one, and peace.